Day before Thanksgiving 2020, lost my best friend to suicide. Sergeant Chris Hampton was a sergeant at the Dearborn Police Department. Woke up in the morning, had one of my friends call my phone about 6 times that were all missed. Then I saw 3 missed calls from my sergeants, and I knew immediately something was wrong. Found out Chris had shot himself. That was a game changer in my life because Chris was one of those people where you never saw it coming. Everyone loved him. Nobody hated Chris Hampton. But that, along with a bunch of other stuff that I went through, pushed me into this arena, I guess.
Today's episode of Minds on the Front Line features an honest discussion about trauma, healing, and cultural change. We welcome Stephen Dluzynski, a Dearborn police officer, peer support leader, and father who has turned personal loss into a professional mission. After losing his best friend and fellow officer to suicide, Steve dedicated himself not only to healing, but also to transforming how we support those who serve. In this episode, Steve offers a grounded, first-hand view on the emotional impact of cumulative trauma, the effectiveness of therapy, and the essential role of peer and wellness programs. From navigating his healing process to creating a department-wide wellness program from scratch, Steve shares practical insights and simple, cost-effective strategies that any agency can adopt, regardless of its budget. If you are a frontline worker, department leader, or family member, this episode is here to encourage you, educate you, and help you build a more resilient future. Minds on the Front Line is presented by the Frontline Strong Together 5 program, offering 24/7 mental health and crisis support for Michigan's first responders and their families. For more information on FST5, including free access to resources and how to connect, please check out the episode description and follow us on social media. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Steve, welcome to the show. Your first time here. We've known you for a while. You've been with the FST5 program for a while.
Yeah.
For some reason, we haven't had you on here yet.
Busy. Everyone's busy. I get it.
Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
So my name's Steve Dluzynski, Dearborn police officer for almost 13 years now. Born and raised in the city.
You Dearborn kids tend to stay in Dearborn.
Old Dearborn.
They call it the Dearborn bubble, man.
Yeah.
Dearborn bubble. It's hard
You're
to
not
get out
kidding.
once you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once
Great
you're there,
food.
you're a lifer, dude.
Yeah. 2012, cop jobs weren't out there like they are now. So I went to Scottsdale, Arizona, applied in Florida, bunch of departments around Michigan. But
You were happy with where you landed.
yeah, very happy with where I landed.
That's awesome. And I do really appreciate the fact that many of the firefighters, police officers, everybody working for that city tends to grow up there.
Yeah, pretty. We got a lot
It
of
makes
guys.
it look like you have to live here, but no, it just draws the people in.
Yeah, you just kind of want to. And then once you're in, you're in.
Well, enough about you people in your hometown. Before we move on to more with you, Steve, Ryan, remind everybody who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
I'm Ryan Fessenden. I'm the administrative coordinator for Frontline Strong Together 5, a retired dispatch supervisor from the Warren Police Department. After I left Warren, I got into the mental health side of first responders and became involved with FST5.
And also one hell of a DJ.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Steve, back to you. You've done a lot of things as an officer.
A lot, yeah.
And your biggest thing you've been trying to tackle, I'd say probably in the last 5 years, is health, wellness, mental health, and law enforcement.
Right.
What has drawn you into being an advocate for that?
You know, I've been super blessed in my half of my career. You know, most law enforcement careers are 25 years long. I'm not even at 13 yet. But, you know, started off on patrol, field training officer, went to a border crime unit, was selected for our local narcotics unit, was tasked out to a MSP crew for 2 years, came back to our local unit, was picked for the SWAT team. I'm a sniper. And then recently, within the last 4 years, was picked for our peer team. And then in September of last year, I got with the chief, our administration, and our union presidents and presented a proposal to start a health and wellness program embedded in our department. So as of now, I'm assigned back to the road, but also our health and wellness coordinator here at Dearborn.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how common is that in the law enforcement agencies around Michigan to have somebody focus on that?
Yeah, Michigan, not so much. Just kind of doing what I'm doing, going back to, my education. I'll get to that in a little while. But nationwide, it seems like a lot of departments are really taking officers' health and wellness and truly taking a look at the individual. They're taking it seriously. Every year we have in-service training. It's a legal update. It's a shooting. It's your driving. It's your cultural diversity.
The terms and conditions, if you will.
Box it. Check it. Make sure it's in a box and check it. Yeah. But we really never take a look as a whole, as a community, especially here in Michigan, as the officer and the individual and everything they have to deal with, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, critical incidents, spillover, compound stuff. So that's kind of my focus over the last 5 years.
So you're not just doing that, though. You're actually getting educated on a bigger picture. You're working on your master's degree. So give everybody more context into what you've been doing, working towards that, and how you're leveraging that to be useful in the programs you're developing in the field.
Day before Thanksgiving 2020, I lost my best friend to suicide. Sergeant Chris Hampton was a sergeant at the Dearborn Police Department. Woke up in the morning, had one of my friends call my phone about 6 times that were all missed. Then I saw 3 missed calls from my sergeants and probably 2 or 3 from another lieutenant. And I knew immediately something was wrong. So being the veteran officer I am, you never call your boss back. Anyone who's a first responder, you never call the boss back first. You call your buddies back, figure out what's going on. So got the call, found out Chris had shot himself. And that was a game changer in my life because Chris was one of those people where you never saw it coming. He was the light of the room. You walked in, you knew where Chris was. I mean, I still hear the "what up" coming down the hall because you would hear him from the bridge. He'd say that exact phrase to everybody and just be, everyone loved him. Nobody hated Chris Hampton. But that, along with a bunch of other stuff that I went through, kind of really pushed me back or pushed me into this arena, I guess. I am now divorced, but my ex-wife at the time is a very competent trauma therapist. She's really good at what she does. She was talking to me one night, and she's like, listen, I'm getting an influx of first responders. I can't handle this. The field as a whole, like first responders, they come to me, and I'm hearing things that I never thought I would hear. She goes, you've always been someone who's done something. When it comes to, personal issues, professional issues, you see a problem, you fix it. She said, I think you'd be a great candidate to go do something about this. So the next week, I found an online counseling and psychological sciences program through Arizona State. Wrapped up my bachelor's in 2024 with that. And then now I'm blowing through my master's program in social work. Going to be done in the spring of 26 and going to work specifically with first responders.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so anything and everything from, the one-on-one therapy stuff to education training. I think, honestly, education and training is probably the biggest thing. Just acknowledging that there's issues, whether it comes to us being, type A personalities and the stigma associated with asking for help all the way to and through, understanding that these careers, first responding, has been around forever. So everyone's gone through what you're going through. You're not unique. This isn't anything to be embarrassed about.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and I think one of the coolest things that we've seen, at least recently, is a influx in first responders going back to school to do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. We need them to.
Even 5-10 years ago, we've all been in this industry for a while, and how many times did you hear one of our coworkers say they're going to go back and be a therapist?
It was hard to even hear him go, what, you're getting your bachelor's? And now it's like a standard process where people are working on their master's. So all of this is expanded into the thoughts that I never thought people would be traveling into. It's great.
Yeah, it's a nice change to see within our first responder community. But what other changes have you seen in how trauma impacts both officers and their families over your career?
Man, I kind of feel like the families are the forgotten ones. Like everyone, especially this big push nowadays, our first responders, we're taking care of ourselves. We're making that push to do it. But, walking home, walking in the door silent, walking in already, walking on eggshells, and the spouses don't know how to act. The kids see it immediately. Kids are sponges. I got a 6-year-old right now. I can't tell you how many times I've walked in the door after having a rough shift or just being burnt out from the week where, Daddy, let's go play, let's go do this, let's go do that. And, I had to force myself up and get off the couch because that's one promise I made. I said, I don't care how tired, how crappy the week's been. I'm not going to get up and go play catch with
you. Always show up.
Yeah, you have
That's
to.
it.
You have to. But then that kind of circles back to.
But you're expressing the struggle in that.
Yeah.
Keeping that promise.
Yes.
And it's hard to be present in that when you're drained like that.
Right.
You're giving them what they need to a degree, and you're there, and I'm sure, but there's probably another gear there.
There is, but then that just circles back to, we're burning the candle. I'm not even going to say from both ends, from every end. Because now
we threw the candle in a fire.
Yeah. We just threw gas on it, because now you're getting it at work and you're getting drained and you're dealing with everything you're dealing with at work. Then you're coming home, and again, you're putting, yes, it's your kids. I will always put my kid first no matter what, and most, if not all, people I know in the police work and firefighting will. But then again, you're not taking the time to take care of yourself, and it's an easy fix. Like, just take care of yourself. Find the time. We always put everybody first, but there needs to be a time where we put ourselves first every once in a while. Give yourself some grace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things is you hit the nail on the head. You talk to first responders, it's always, I'll help this person, I'll help that person out. But by doing that, you only have so much in that cup to give, right? And once that's poured out, it's out. Sometimes you have to kind of tilt the cup back, let it refill, and then you can go back at it. One of those ways of kind of helping get yourself back and taking care of yourself is kind of going to therapy, doing different things. What are some benefits to some therapeutic interventions that you've gone through?
Yeah, so I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't have my fair share of therapy just from being on the peer team. Once you're on the peer team, you're encouraged, strongly encouraged to at least see a therapist once a year. Because of the vicarious trauma stuff, you're dealing with other people's emotional residue that you need to off-gas every once in a while. But me personally, stuff with Chris, incidents I've gone through, I went to a therapist myself for a couple years. At first, I was the typical first responder. It's voodoo. It's nonsense. It really helped. At the very bare bones of it, even if you go and just complain, as first responders, we're great at complaining. Like, it doesn't matter where we are, what we do, we're going to find something wrong with something.
Never happy.
Never happy. Yeah. It doesn't matter what, But just sitting there and talking and complaining and just literally just getting it off your chest, I walked out of there multiple times. There's no aha moments every single time you go to therapy. There's no, changing your
world.
Work. It is. It's work. For me, it really all started with being honest with myself. And I think that's kind of one of the main things that if you think something's wrong with yourself, nobody knows you better than you. So that true, brutal honesty with yourself, because we can all sit here, look in the mirror, say we're fine, but there's always that little inkling in the back of your head where you say, okay, maybe I'm not fine. And it wasn't just one thing. It was Chris, yes, but it was, I was involved in an officer-involved shooting where a lady died in my arms. She literally took her last breath as I'm trying to say, okay, the ambulance is here. And I hear the ambulance coming. There were some things on the peer team where I had dealt with were, super jarring just by trying to help others. And then, of course, everything in my personal life. And finally, I just decided, I'm not doing my son any favors by sitting here and pushing stuff down. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try. And initially, it started off with just talk therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, basically just sitting there and talking. It's your stuff you see in the movies like The Sopranos.
Yep.
And then there's this thing called EMDR, which I was a huge skeptic in. It's evidence-based. It's approved by the American Psychological Association. For first responders, I found, especially myself, give me results. I don't have time to sit here and learn all of the ins and outs and nuances of something I know nothing about. Like, here's my problem. What's the solution? How can we fix this?
A diagnostic. If they plug your car in, they hit the button, it comes up with a code. You almost want that. It seems ridiculous, but yeah.
Here's my problem. What's my solution? I've got other things to do.
Right.
So there's this therapeutic intervention called EMDR. I had some critical incidents. I had a really hard time really moving through and getting over, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And what this EMDR does is it will basically take your response to every time you think about it, you see something, anytime, I hate the word triggered, but anytime that you are affected by this actual event. Say my response to that event is a 9 right now on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, where I get the pit in my stomach, the sweats, basically the anxious feeling.
Physical response.
Fight or flight response.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just a thought. It's
Correct.
A body response.
Yes, a physiological response to something, whether it's an incident or, something that was horrible that happened in your life, whether it's personal, professional, anything, it'll work. And it will take, you can work with someone who knows what they're doing and a certified EMDR specialist. It'll take that 9 out of 10 response, and they don't find it successful until you're down to a 3 or a 2, which going through it and having a 9 response and being able to get that down to a 2, it's life-changing. Like
Right.
it's ridiculous how much, like I think about it now, I talk about it now.
Without the response, and that's the key.
Zero. Yeah.
And so to
Yeah,
back
zero
up a
response.
moment, this is a clinical therapy, but essentially activating both sides of your brain while focusing on a very traumatic thing that happened to you that causes the types of signs and symptoms that you described. And then these therapists being trained to walk you through it, desensitizing yourself to the thing that's making you respond in a negative way that doesn't make you forget about it. It allows you to truly process it,
Correct.
kind of accept it, maybe not a great word, but at least your body is not responding negatively. It's a neutral thing. You still don't have to like it. You're still going to have negative thoughts about something, but you're not going to adopt the heart pounding, oh my God, oh, I'm going to have a panic attack anxiety. Would that summarize it?
That's pretty much it. You did a great job explaining it. Basically, using bilateral stimulation and reprocessing your response to the traumatic incident or whatever it is.
Is this done like through like a mental exercise?
So you can use hand buzzers. You can follow a light bar back and forth. You can just sit there and tap your shoulders. As long as your brain
Crossing
is
the center
It's
line.
crossing.
moving back and forth
And
between.
what we mean by bilateral stimulation is literally just getting the left and the right going, trying to harmonize them and get them both activated. And when you take one side of your body and reach across and you feel like patting like this, there's and we're not doing it justice, but essentially that state of mind and that makes it seem more suggestible to allow the reprogramming and processing to happen. And it seems way too simple because A, you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to take a medication with it. It's a very simple process and very homeopathic, if you will. So we just talked about the clinical aspect of that, getting out, don't be skeptical of it. If it's something for you, reach out. You know, we're not saying everybody should go to therapy. We're saying that there are clinical options available to people. There are people suffering, lead them to the right thing. Now, one of the things that leads people to the right care are peer support teams and peers in general, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. You have become a peer support team member at your agency. Tell us more about that. Why do you think it's such an important thing? Why are you doing it? And why should other people maybe consider it if it's something for them?
Yeah, well, obviously, this just kind of fits why I'm doing it. It just fits the mold of where I'm going. You know, the peer team for me, it was just the next natural step at the department. When I decided to put my name in the hat, the peer team was probably about 2 years old. We were fairly young, and actually the letter had come out. I had missed the deadline. I didn't think about it. Well, then Chris happened, and I started doing my thing with the schooling. And so I went to the commander. I was like, can I put my name in late? Is there anything I can do? And he's like, sit down. So I explained, you know, why it's important to me, why I want to do it. He saw my passion. He's like, well, you got to go through an interview. So I had a kind of, you know, a little impromptu interview with a couple of the coordinators, and I got 4 thumbs up. And then they're like, all right, you're on the team. So I kind of pride myself on being on the peer team and being one of the more active members because I know I'm helping other people. But also, you know, it's nice to see it work because we come from a culture where nothing is too big, we're too tough for all of it. And to have people actually take a step back, and I go back to that being honest with yourself, you know, people try to bury it too much, but to have especially the younger kids, when you have the younger kids come and I call them kids, so I'm dating myself, I'm 41 in July, but you're laying that foundational culture for the future. Because when I started 13 years ago, we had the baby boomers training us. So it was, you know, the cliche, grab your beers, see a roll call the next day, you'll be fine. But now, I'm not going to say everybody because there's still some, you know, some doubters out there, but there's a good chunk of people that are really starting to use our peer team more often and not just during critical incidents. It's home stress, it's work stress. But I guess the biggest thing, just to speak on the importance and how to really get the peer team going, it helps promote early intervention and access. If we're constantly out there and we're telling our officers, hey, this 25-year block is going to affect you negatively. You know, you spoke earlier about, oh yeah, not everybody needs therapy. If you don't, great. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. You probably have lots of things in place that provide you resilience and a healthy mechanism to where the therapy is needed.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, that's one thing where if you, those things in place prior to going through your stuff and you're educated, that's where I go back to the education. You know, a lot of stuff happens because we just don't know about it. And if you can get senior guys, respected guys that, you know, have done all these things and are looked highly upon, your 10 to 20-year veterans, and the young guys see them, oh yeah, this guy says I might be affected negatively and it might take a toll on my home life and my personal life, then maybe I'll listen to him. And then that piggybacks off,
Something about just accepting something at an awareness level happens.
Yes, absolutely.
It plants a seed so when the thing happens, I don't feel obliged to ignore it and say, well, they're going to think this. Like, no, it's already acceptable. Oh, it happened to me. Now I need to go fix it.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about it, like just openly talk about it, not just like how we're sitting here, but the conversations you have at roll call or you have at the kitchen table at 10, 11 o'clock at night. You may not be speaking to the masses, but you're speaking to one person at a time. It opens up that culture of like, hey, it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay. Like, hey, I went through some shit. This is what I went through. And I think it really starts fostering that type of relationship and that type of environment where you work. Whereas before, we weren't having those type of conversations.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sure a lot of those people were struggling, but they just never showed it. So you didn't feel like you were okay and could talk about it, But getting back to like the peer teams and the wellness program, I mean, it's not easy to get these things started, right? It's tough. What kind of impact does the administration have and their support on the success of things like this?
So with the administration, it's 90% of it, your first go round, your first year. Like if you don't have top-down support, it's going to be, I'll say, impossible.
When you say support, would you also say that it needs to be a priority? A lot of people tend to say support is, no, I think you should do this. But making it a priority tends to move things out of the way.
It has to be a priority. It has to be something that, from your chief down to and through your training officer and your newest officers, at least understand. You don't have to completely buy into it. Everybody's different. Everything affects everybody differently. But I find it hard-pressed to find someone that has gone through any of these professions for 25 years and said, no, I made it through completely unscathed. And even at the very bare bones moments in your career where you are, hey, this is messing me up, having stuff like this in place and having buy-in from your chief and your administration, that's going to go light years with
What does
with
support
everybody.
look like from administration?
Well, we all understand budget. So when I started the program, that's the one thing I knew I had to be. I am one of those, let's aim high and see what happens. But I told the chief when I made this proposal to him, I said, listen, chief, I can put stats, data, research in front of you on why this works, how this works, and that it does work over time. Two things I can't argue with you on, manpower and its budget. So that withholding is going to be anyone that's looking to try to start a health and wellness program from the administration, just getting back to answer your question, I would say time allotment. Because everybody has the officers. We all have jobs. I'm doing this as a secondary duty from a police car on the road. But I was working a special shift a couple days a week just because you have to, as a
They saw it as a good investment of your time to help the agency.
that, and you got to be available.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't not do it. You can
two
be
shifts
capable, but if you're not physically there to do it, how are you going to get it done?
Right. I mean, 24-hour shifts for firefighters,
Yeah.
12-hour shifts for PD, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. You have a 24-hour operation with a narcotics unit, a special ops, detective bureau. They luckily allowed me to kind of be available for everybody in the building at some point during the week. But even to just getting to roll calls and being out and having that face-to-face time, scheduling training blocks. Like I've put together a few different trainings. We start with our new hires, in our 2-week orientation. That's been allotted me by the administration. Come in, come off the road, come talk to our new guys. We're working on some in-service training, which if you're a first responder, you know what in-service training is. Every single year you got to go to it. So I would say top-down support, budget if you have it, but then the biggest thing would be allotment of time to whoever you assign, whether it's someone through your training office or your peer coordinators, or you embed a whole health and wellness position like we have at Dearborn. That would be my big 3 to start for sure.
Yeah, it's so important to have a dedicated person, right? Any program I've seen start in a first responder agency, it's a great idea. Everybody supports it, but if there's not somebody truly on that task with deadlines and objectives, I'm sure it's the same in dispatch.
From my experience, dispatch was included with patrol. So it wasn't really separate. The people in place that are overseeing and operating the whole peer support team was extremely important. You have to have the trust in those people. If you don't have the trust, you're not going to participate. You're not going to take it seriously. Another big thing that I saw, I was one of the naysayers when the peer support team started. I was one of the old guys that, I don't need that.
Yeah.
They made debriefings mandatory when we had a critical incident. That was eye-opening to me. Totally changed my point of view, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here today as part of FST5. I didn't realize that how some critical incidents had an effect on me until I started going to these debriefings and hearing others talk. And I also seen relationships change with people because people talk in these debriefings and you learn what they have been through and some of their past experiences, and things kind of make sense all of a sudden why they are the way they are because of things that they've been through in the past. Totally changed my point of view. And had it not been for mandatory debriefings, I probably wouldn't be here today.
We've all been that adolescent kid who's like, no, I don't want to do it. We've all been that guy. We've also been the person like, that was pretty good.
I think it's because of the shift in the culture. There was never mandatory debriefings. There was never any of this stuff. So you were brought up with, oh, screw that, it's not going to work. Or, oh, we're going to the kumbaya circle now. And like that kind of, there was always a negative kind of connotation attached to it.
And the entire deciding factor in that was who the administration was at that time that made that change.
Right.
They set the tone.
Would you say they made it a priority?
Well, yeah, they definitely made it a priority because when they made debriefings mandatory on critical incidents, yes, that became a priority at that point.
So, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make earlier. And I'm not saying like demand it, write people up, but if you make something a priority, you just follow through and you just let people say what they got to say, but you got to do it.
And it never got to that point where it was, oh, you're going to get written up. No.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
It was more like,
fill that in with anything.
This is serious. You need to go. And they were right.
Yeah. Well, good. It worked on you.
So, Steve, getting back, so you're spearheading a wellness program.
Yep.
I'll tell you, a lot of places have the peer support, they have the mental health, but they don't go as far as going to having a wellness program, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty general term, too.
Yeah. So kind of take us through that. Like, what does it entail? What did it take to initiate it? And for you right now, building it out, what are some of those components that you're making a part of this wellness program to not only make it effective, but also affordable for your department and the people using it?
Yeah, so affordable is not a thing. We don't have a budget for this, so.
So yes,
but
it
that's
is affordable.
But that's real. That's a real thing though, because a lot of places don't have money to throw at it.
Here's the thing. I think I've summarized in the last 20-some years of doing education and first responder stuff. It doesn't seem like a boss is going to say yes unless something is evidence-based. There's evidence to like why we need it or what it is, relevant to what we do, and cost-effective.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to pass up no cost, right?
Yes.
So, but sometimes you're not going to get any money, and sometimes they want you to prove the other two before a cost is invested into something like that. So I think it kind of speaks to that. But based on those constraints, everybody can identify, do more with less. You have no budget. This is all built on essentially love for the game. Give us your overview of what you're doing and how you're doing it under those circumstances.
Just personally what we did, we met with the administration, we met with the union chiefs, we met with our chief of police, and basically explained why we needed it. The administration can always say no to everything, but once you present a problem and you come with a solution, it makes it a little harder. I gave them a 3-year outline of kind of what I wanted, what this program to look like. And by the end of it, everyone was kind of on board, or at least, had one foot in the door. The biggest thing for me was finding out what our officers needed and wanted. Went to all the roll calls. I made sure that, voices were heard, because at some point, like you guys mentioned earlier, it gets lost in translation. You got too many people doing too many things. You need one point of contact to kind of move forward. It was one of those things where it was a lot of physical stuff. Our gym was down. Our nights guys said they weren't sleeping really well, which is a night's problem in and of itself. The fact that just working midnights, you have no restaurants that are really open. So that was a big factor. And a lot of guys were feeling really burnt out really early. So kind of paired with that, once we got the keys to the car, my first focus was kind of education, which you can do for free. You can make any connection to any competent clinician. There's 1 million on the Frontline Strong website. I compiled a stress management PowerPoint, compiled a burnout, and at the very least, if people click through it on their little monthly training that we have to go through our program, at least they see it. You don't always have to use it. You don't always, but they're aware. And now, maybe in 5 years, oh, Steve-O threw out that PowerPoint. Let me go back and take a look, because I remember seeing something in there and we can go back.
Maybe I saw a phone number in there and now it's useful to me.
Right.
Maybe
exactly.
I have a family member at home that needs it, but I don't.
Correct. It's one of those things where, maybe down the line, and that's one of the best things you can do is
they're
plant
accepting
that
a seed. Yeah, that's going to say you're accepting that seed and allowing it to grow inside their mind and say, oh, that's a tool I can use for later.
Yeah, exactly. And then another thing I would definitely suggest that I did is tap into your department resources. We've got 170-ish officers. Everyone brings something to the table. We've got people that have written diet plans before. We have people that are CrossFit coaches or have some sort of physical fitness certification. We have people who have financial backgrounds. Like the 5 pillars we are building this on is the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the social, and the financial aspect of us. Because each one of those all have our own stressors. We never make enough money. Like financial is easy, spiritual, you can, no matter what, you believe in God, Allah, the earth, energy, whatever, there's always an aspect. Most times there's aspects to that. Physical and mental health, that just speaks for itself, And then how many times I don't know if you had it in the fire academy, but in the police academy, we were told, do not make your primary friend group your police officer friends at work. Because
it wasn't preached back
then.
then.
They never told us that. That's
in fact, it was almost like
it was
the
encouraged.
Fire academy is the worst because a lot of us go to, and I say the worst in a joking way.
Yeah.
But so many of us joined because we love the team.
Yes,
sure. We love the sports teams. We're the kids who like the big teams, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the cops were more like the wrestlers. They had a team, but like you're out there by yourself almost in a way.
Yep.
So it's tough for us to be like, I got to have more than those friends, but I have so many of them that it is my network. So it's a little tougher.
I remember starting a senior officer telling me, these people here are going to become your family, and that's who you're going to socialize with and you are going to be with all the time.
And
they weren't wrong.
And but they should have added the wisdom should have been, and you should also have other friends.
Right. Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But then you see at the bar, what are you doing? You're not talking about the Tigers. You're not talking about birthdays. Or
you're
talking about
work.
war. You're complaining about
different
work.
uniform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got a beer in your hand, and
right.
Next thing you know, it's 24/7, 365.
Yeah,
and it's
you're
just
living in it.
Yeah. So tap into your own department resources.
Isn't it amazing how many resources are in these departments? I'm always so amazed when you go to any type of fire, EMS, police. There's always like really talented people.
Yeah.
It'll have like nothing to do with the primary job while they're there. Like, did you know that guy builds planes?
We had
stuff like that.
I swear to God, we've got a guy who is Big Bird on Sesame Street Live.
See,
you know what I mean? Like
it's
you just never know. You know what I mean?
We got electricians, plumbers, guys who build your house, but then there's always somebody else who's like a professional something. You're like, really? That's so amazing.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing doing that as your main gig?
Yeah, but this is fun, and it speaks to the job. A lot of those people that are so talented are drawn into these jobs. And you find out they just got a cool gig on the side. I always like to find that those gems at these departments. And you're speaking to that because there's utility in these people. Mm-hmm. Like you got a financial guy, awesome. Can he help look at all of these people's whatever they're looking at?
Right.
Little advice. Somebody needs a diet plan because you got a buddy who needs to cut 5 to 10 pounds to save his life over the next 50 years. It is so underestimated what you could do with the resources already in your toolbox.
Yeah.
You just got to say, hey, man, what do you need?
Yeah, where can we put them and have someone embedded that can, kind of facilitate it all. So
if you could build out a master plan, like for a long-term vision when it comes to wellness in the entire law enforcement community, in your mind, what would that look like?
That every department made it a core mission. It was something that was not just a secondary afterthought, or like I said earlier, we spoke about checking the box. At the end of the day, this is a business, Officers are investments. You're investing in these people to provide and produce for you. So why are we forgetting 2/3 of their life instead of investing back into them and making sure that they're okay to come to the job, they're okay to leave the job and go home and be productive family members, fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, and then at the end of the day, just lead purposeful, meaningful lives, because that gets lost very quickly in these professions. The worldview starts to change after so long. You start to see things and go through things where you're just like, okay, just going back to work and going to do it and get through the shift, as opposed to,
being a part of it.
Yes.
Being
There's
present.
a difference of being a part of your shift and being at your shift.
Yeah.
You're either at work or you're part of work, right?
Absolutely. And
We've all been there.
That takes its toll. I mean, salty veteran isn't a word or a phrase without a reason. So
right. A little false pride in that sometimes too.
Yeah. Definitely. So I guess a long-term vision, that stuff like this is talked about, that stuff like this is actioned, and like I said, just made a core value for police departments, fire departments around.
Priority.
Dispatch centers.
Just life safety, incident stabilization,
Yeah.
property conservation, protecting our own.
That's it.
Like it's just got to add one more. You're not saying to change anything.
Right.
We're saying to keep our evolution going. And that's one thing about first response agencies, police, fire, EMS, corrections. We're always evolving because we have to.
Yeah.
The circumstances of which we face are changing. So we're always changing. So like, all right, so what else are we adding to this thing? The fire department's become this all hazards response agency.
Oh, you name it. Yeah.
So we're so used to like, all right, well, we became medics 20 years ago. Now what?
Now where do we at
We're
again?
going to fly now? Like, what do we want to do here?
Yeah.
You know, when I started as a dispatcher, there was one screen in front of us. When I retired, there was 8.
Right.
Yeah.
And one a different thing, and your brain could adapt to it.
If I hired on as a dispatcher now, I probably couldn't do the job. I learned all that technology over 25 years.
Right. Slowly.
In small
You grew
increments.
up with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You started
Yeah.
your first 5 to 10 just answering the phone and going through the basics.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Steve, as we go out here, what messages would you like to convey to first responders who may be struggling?
This goes back to me speaking about honesty earlier and honesty with yourself. If you think something's wrong or something's off, or maybe just having a down month or two, reach out. You know, I tell my new guys that come in the orientation, in the new orientation presentation I do, this job has been around forever. It's going to continue to be around. Whatever you're going through is not unique to you. People in this building, probably in this room, are either going through it, have gone through it, or will go through it. So a lot of times you find with us as type A people, and we don't want to burden other people. We don't want to seem weak. There's a lot of value in just sitting down and talking to someone, especially someone who has come before you, because then you break that wall down immediately. And then that's when you start to foster this culture change and realize, okay, maybe there is something to this, and I don't have to be as walled off or seem as protected. And in turn, that's just going to open up just a better life for everyone.
Yeah. It's almost like asking them to do less. Just be passive about how you feel. Allow the feelings to come. Allow the feelings to go. Don't feel the need to deflect them. It's easier. Because not having a guard is easier than putting up the guard. It's a passive process. Relax. Yeah. And it's cool to hear somebody with as much time as you have on saying to new people, yo, you're going to feel it, and here's what to expect. Here's what you can do about it, rather than putting this seed in their mind of, you're going to suck it up, and you're going to learn to live with it. And they're thinking, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you push away, you push away, you push away, and all of a sudden that balloon pops.
Yeah. And also, you know, make sure that you don't make this job a part of you, because I've told myself I'm not making this a part of my identity. But when I left narcotics, I absolutely felt like a chunk of me was gone. You know, it was a small unit. We worked very closely with our special operations unit. It was that tight family within the family. And me, you know, Mr. Practice What You Preach, don't make this job a part of you. Don't make this part, you know, don't over-invest to where, and I left and I was like, man, I feel like it was more than a miss, you know. It felt like a piece of me was gone. But just know, if you haven't gone through it, you will, because everybody's replaceable around here.
Right.
Everyone in this job is replaceable. And this speaks more to just suicide. It speaks more to, like, you know, depression or alcoholism. You're replaceable at your job. You're not replaceable at home. Right. To your family, your kids, your spouse, your support system, your friends, you're not replaceable. So make sure that you're taking those steps to take care of yourself on the front end, and then you will be much better off on the back end.
Yeah, I've seen that story play out too many times where people don't realize how deep in they are. Mm-hmm. And they feel like they're the key to whatever it is, success, and if they're not a part of it, it's failing. And what they realize after retirement too often is that people still went on the calls. Mm-hmm. They still did a good job. The trucks got filled, people went out, calls got dispatched, bad guys got picked up, and then they finally realize it. And the sad tragedy of it is you weren't present when you were there.
Mm-hmm. You're
too deep in this thing.
In all reality, we're seat warmers.
Yeah,
in
we're
the
good
timeline
at it. We do all the things, but
Yes.
we can't overthink our quote importance or our value. We are, every time you go on that call, you're the value.
Yeah.
When the call's over, you learn from it. You go to the next one. That's it.
Yep.
Leave it there.
Yep.
Steve, it's been fantastic having you. We'll have
Appreciate
you back.
guys. Thanks
Absolutely.
for having me on. Yeah.
Ryan, thank you for joining us as well.
Thanks for having me.
All right, fellas. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Minds on the Frontline podcast. We have more great content coming out soon. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. And make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you, and have a great day.